What's up, everybody? Can you please let me know if you can hear and see me okay? Diganta says, hey, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. Says he's waiting. Awesome. Me too. We'll get started in a minute or two. Steven says, hello, Chris. I can hear you. Awesome. Diganta says, all good. Yeah, be professional here and turn off my ringer. Like I say, we'll get started in a minute or two. We just got emails and browser notifications going out. Elisha, who I haven't seen in a long time, says, I love you, Chris. And I like you as a friend. Kind of. Rubel Raz says, we are ready. Good, good, good. We get started at 3 or 4 after, give folks a chance to get on. I wrote the email notification for this yesterday and scheduled it for what I believed to be 2 p.m. today. But it turns out the scheduler was in military time. So I ended up scheduling it for 2 a.m. So you may have gotten the first email at 2 a.m. as opposed to 2 p.m. So I wrote another one today. Hopefully that'll get some folks on. If not, we'll have a nice little intimate gathering of our own. So get started in another minute or two. Anybody have anything they'd like me to talk about in the meantime? Elisha says SEO GOAT. Thank you, sir. It's been a while. I've seen you were on tour and some other great stuff. So good to see you do well as well. Jose says hello. What's up, Jose? Rafi says hello. What's up, Rafi? Few folks on. Looks like turnout's going to be modest, but not great, but not bad. We've missed a few weeks because of various things. There was one morning that we were going to do one that day, and my cat passed away that day, so I had to deal with that. And then last week I was just too busy. So Steven said, I just saw this meeting pop up in YouTube a few minutes ago, Chris. Oh, good. Yeah, we just got started. MD, what's up, buddy? Says hello. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Good to see you here. Get a quick drink before we get into it. This topic was actually chosen by people that were on the last live stream I did. So I hope that it benefits. And I think this is probably going to be the end of the agency series, but we'll see. Larry says going to buy a new suit for November 1st. You still won't be able to compete with me, buddy. You can't look this good. Just kidding. But what he's talking about is we have I can't give out any details yet, but we have something very special planned for Legiit for November 1st. Mrs. EB says, just so you don't think your entire audience is male. Well, thank you. I know they're not. I know they're not. I probably shouldn't touch that any more than that. But I'm glad to know that we have the ladies represented as well. Randy, what's up, Randy? Says, hey, boss. Hey, Randy, how's it going, buddy? Always a pleasure. We got one more minute, and then I'm just going to get into it because we got a lot to cover. And also, I'm an introvert, and the more I'm on camera, the quicker I get tired. So it's better to get into the presentation. Steven says, I love your Legiit suit you were wearing. Ooh, that's an opportunity. I'll have to think about that. Fawad says, hey, Chris. What's up, Fawad? I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our presentation. Let me get slideshow from beginning. All right. Drop that down. Share. In case you're wondering, I talk about what I'm going to do when there's nobody on as well. And now I can't even do it because you put me on the spot. Fawad says it's perfect, boss. Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. Hold your questions to the end if you don't mind. And then at the end, of course, I'll go through and answer anything you would like me to answer. But today's topic is what should I charge for SEO services? I chose that exact title for the SEO value. We're really going to be talking about pricing digital services of pretty much any kind. So just so we're clear, pricing. Today, we're going to cover 2 to 3 different strategies. It ended up being like more like 6 or 7, and some other considerations for how to price. But before we get into that, of course, we have a warning. The warning is this is not the only way or even necessarily the best way to go about pricing services, although I cover most of the angles, so it's kind of the only way, or anything else. Multiple things can be true all at once. That's mostly for the people that are going to complain about something. So it's not a static thing. Every case is different. Every way you run your agency is different. Every client you're going to work with is going to be a little bit different. So just don't be the person that finds a case where something I say doesn't apply and think that invalidates the whole thing, I guess is what I'm saying. Obviously, we won't be able to go into every aspect of everything because there's just, a limited amount of time. And I'm going to recommend a few tools and freelancers, although not really too much in this one. Don't think that those are the only good ones or the only people that can do this or anything like that. It's just what I chose to use as an example. And most importantly, there will be no free pizza provided this time. I apologize. Actually, I don't. I don't want to provide pizza. Next up, let's recap. It's been a few weeks, so I want to quickly recap what we've talked about in this series so far. We did week 1, the difference between a freelancer and an agency, why you want to start an agency, how to get started, defining your offer, fulfillment, what you should learn, choosing a niche, choosing a lead gen source, choosing an outreach method, and what your typical day should be like. In week 2, we talked about figuring out what you're going to sell, whether it's SEO, ads, blogs, whatever, defining your offer, creating a customer avatar, figuring out your sales process, and starting a prospecting list. Steve says he came for the pizza. Sorry to let you down, buddy. Alexis says hello. Finally able to attend these. Looking forward to it. Glad to have you here, Alexis. Week 3, we talked about manually filling out your prospect list and then finding prospects in any niche for any service using Legiit Leads. That one was my favorite because Legiit Leads is awesome. And week 4, we talked about sales. So that brings us to this week, and the topic is pricing. After the last one, after the sales webinar, or live stream or whatever you want to call it, a lot of people asked about how to properly price. So that's obviously something people needed help with, and it made it easier for me because then I didn't have to think of something. So pricing probably goes without saying, but it's important to get your pricing right. Pricing is how much you charge for your services, how you pay your expenses, and how you pay yourself. Like being in business is great, right? And helping people and doing good for the world. All of that's an important part of business. But if you can't pay yourself, it's not going to last. You're going to end up resenting the business. And obviously, you have bills to pay just like everybody else. So it's okay to charge what you're worth. For some reason in our society, a lot of people think that asking for money is bad, charging for things is bad, that you're doing something wrong when you expect to be paid. But the truth is, you have made the time and the investment in yourself to learn a valuable skill that will help people. And there's nothing wrong with being compensated for that and exchanging value for that. In fact, in my opinion, it's disrespectful to the time and to the people that have taught you and everything you've done to get yourself in a position where you can do those things that people need done. So don't be afraid to charge and to charge what you're worth. Got Al Maroof says hi, and Barefoot Queen Get Down to Business Channel, I think that's Yamil, says hello. So some things to consider are the industry standards. So there are going to be cases where you can get away with charging way more than most people that sell, for example, SEO. And there are going to be times when you can get away with charging way less. But overall, there's going to be an acceptable range that you aren't going to really be able to get outside of too much. You need to consider your costs and overhead. So how much you need to make, how much revenue you need to make, how much profit you need to make, and just how much time it's going to take you. You need to know all of that. You got to figure out how much you want to pay yourself. The less you can pay yourself, the better, but definitely pay yourself because, again, you need to pay bills and stuff like that. But even if you don't need the money right away, you'll end up resenting the business if you don't pay yourself. And then, of course, you have to consider your niche. If you are in, I don't know, like your clients are pet grooming services, you're probably not going to be able to charge as much as someone that makes jet engines, for an extreme example. So consider that. Another thing is the model. There's a couple different ways you can go, and I suppose there's a happy medium as well. But you can get less higher paying clients or more lower paying clients. There's ups and downs to both of those, and if you are not sure what the ups and downs are, you can just ask, and we'll cover that at the end. So those are some things to consider. There's some pricing types. There's monthly retainer, which is where you get paid every month, like kind of like you pay your landlord or your mortgage or whatever. Basically, there's a fixed amount you charge every month for your services. There's hourly, like you are an employee at McDonald's or Walmart or something, and you get paid based on the number of hours you work. There's one-off, so you do something once, you get paid for it, and you're done. There's revenue share / partnership, which is where you either get paid based on how well the business does, or you're literally a partner in the business and your goal is to get them services. I'm not. I have one business that I'm that way in. It has its ups and downs. And pay per action is stuff like pay however many leads you generate, you charge per lead or phone call or form fill or something like that. And I didn't list it here, but rank and rent is another one where you just rent out a website or video or other property. So those are the main pricing types. There's probably some I didn't think of, but that's kind of what we're going to be talking about for the most part. We're going to talk about monthly, but it won't be all of it. So let's talk about pricing models. I came up with about 7 different pricing models. So we're going to talk about each of those a little bit. The first pricing model is what I like to call the eyeball method. I call it that because after a while, after doing this for a while, you don't really have to think too hard about the price. You're going to just know from looking at the site, the customer, the client, the lead, the prospect, the campaign, how much you need to charge in order to make your whatever you need to make. At the beginning, you're not going to be able to do that, but in time you will. The upside to being able to do that is you can reduce the amount of time that people spend making a decision on whether they want to pay you or not. And if you've done anything with conversions or sales or anything, you know that you need to reduce that window of time between presenting the offer and them actually paying you as much as possible, because the more they have time to think, the more they're going to likely they are to talk themselves out of it. So the downside to that is you may analyze it wrong because you're going off your gut rather than off of any information or statistics or anything quantifiable. So you may end up screwing yourself and not charging enough. So I call it the eyeball method because you can just look at it and figure it out. That's way number one. At this point, that's what I do the most, just because I know for the most part what I need to do because of just, time and experience, but that will come with time. The next one is what I call the McDonald's employee. And I call it that because, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way at all. I worked at McDonald's and it was a great experience, but I call it that because you get paid by the hour. In this method, you're going to actually literally quantify the tasks that you do and report on them and charge a fixed amount per hour. So however much that is, if you work on a campaign for 7 hours a week, you charge them, I don't know, 100. I don't really know good numbers for this one because I don't do it, but $150 an hour or whatever. So the upside is if you get into something that ends up taking you longer than you expected, your time isn't being wasted. You're still going to be compensated for the time you spent. The downside is you have to report that. You have to list every little step that you do. You have to take the time to list every little step that you do. You have to keep track of your hours while you do them. And because you basically turn yourself into your client's employee, which most of us did not get in this business to do. We don't want to work by the hour and we don't want to be an employee. We want to be the master of our own destiny. When you work by the hour, you are somewhat you're going to have to report a lot more, and that's going to take your power away. And then another downside to the McDonald's employee method is that the more you get penalized for being skilled, because the way that learning and the human brain works is the more you do something, the more proficient you get at it, the less time it takes you. And therefore, if you're getting paid for your time, you're going to make less money. So I'm not saying there aren't instances where this is inappropriate, but is not appropriate, but it's not for me. It's not my favorite model. And I just, I wanted to put it out there because it is there, but it's not something I strongly recommend. Method number 3 is the blockhead. If you've watched our previous training, you will find that one of the things that I told you to do was to document and track everything you do in your fulfillment. That way, you know exactly how much content, how many words, what kind of optimization, how many links, how many social signals, what type of links, what type of social signals, what anchors, and so on and so on and so on, is what that is. If once you've documented that, you can take that into a big block and just like recreate it as a widget for the next client and the next client and the next client. So you do a quick analysis of a particular prospect. You see that they're similar to this campaign you did a few years ago or a few months ago, and you know how much it took you to execute that one. You know how much profit you need to make from it. So now you know exactly what to do it, and you can just give them that block or that widget or whatever. I made these names up on the fly, so they may not make as much sense the second time through, but then you know exactly what it's going to take, so you can just offer it to them. So you've got like this widget, this block that you can hand them that you will execute, and you know what to do. So this is probably my favorite method after the eyeball method, because you know you have 90% of the work done for you, at least the planning done for you, before you even do anything. And you can just kind of offer it as almost a commodity. So this is probably my favorite one. This is the point, I think, if you're doing monthly retainer, that you should strive to get to, because now you know exactly what it's going to take to get the job done and what price tag to put on that particular job. And again, you reduce that window from the time you offer it to them to the time they start paying. So that's method number 3, the blockhead. Number 4 is the one and done. This one's pretty straightforward, I think. You optimize a page for somebody or their whole website. You do a speed optimization. You install SSL. You do a Google Business, whatever. You do a one-time thing for them. You get paid for that one thing, and you're done. The upside to this is you can charge more, but because it's a one-time thing. So if you're charging, I don't know, $1,500 a month for a client, you can charge $1,500 for one of these things and be done with it. So that's the upside. The other upside is it gives you leverage to turn them into a bigger client, whether it's a monthly retainer or a bigger project or whatever. That's another upside to it. The downside to it is it's not monthly revenue, right? So once it's done, it's done. You get that money, and once you spend it or invest it or use it however you're going to use it, there's no more. So that's kind of the downside. These, you're probably going to work these in various spots, whether it's as a sales tool or just something that doesn't lend itself to recurring and they're not quite ready, or if they're not quite ready to commit, that sort of thing. So these have their place. You can offer them. You can make a business off the one and done. It's harder, but it can be done. So it's something that you should at least incorporate a little bit, but I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't want that to be my entire model. The next one is called I call it the pointless algorithm. And the reason I call it that is because it's kind of, you're using a formula to come up with it. And it's what, back in the day, it's what everybody taught on how to do SEO client pricing. I always thought it was stupid. It never made much sense to me. And I always had a hard time getting people to close on it because I think it's too complicated. But it's at least a good way for you to come up with a price in your head and then present it another way. So the way it works is you find, let's say, 5 to 10 keywords. And in this example, we're going to be talking about a plumbing business in Boston. And so you find Boston plumber, plumbing service in Boston, Boston pipe repair, Boston emergency plumber, plumbing Boston. Then what you do is you're going to use Google Keyword Planner or a similar tool, but Google Keyword Planner is probably what you should use. And if you're not familiar with that, either Google it or ask me and I'll try to explain it a little better. But you're going to get the CPC for each keyword. CPC stands for cost per click. That means how much, if they were running paid ads to that search term, how much it would cost every time someone clicks on the ad. And then the formula works like this. And by the way, these numbers are fake. I didn't check them at all. I just made them up out of whole cloth. So these could be way off. They could be dead on. I don't know. And it doesn't matter. It's just for illustration purposes. Suppose the cost per click for Boston Plumber is $10. You're going to multiply that by 10 and you're going to get $100. Then the cost per click is 15 times 10 is 150. 20 times 10 is 200. 50 times 10 is 500. 100 times 10 is 1,000. Total those up and you get 1,950. Round that up. You would charge that client based on this formula, this method, to $2,000 a month. So that's kind of how that one works. You can do it at a lower multiplier. You can do it as times 5 if you think that you can't get away with times 10. You can do lots of easy keywords. And this is what a lot of agency, like when I say agency, I mean the people that spam call you and promise you stuff. What they do is pick 50 keywords that are super duper simple and then multiply based on that. You can do it that way. It's not something I like, but the more you do, the lower the multiplier can be. So you can make more. You can also make like a little calculator in Excel or Google Sheets, or just make one to make it really quick. But the cons, in my opinion, one, it's way too complicated for people to understand. Both the people that would offer it this way and the people that would be receiving the offer of it this way. So the client. And also, in my opinion, cost per click has very little to do with SEO. It doesn't reflect the difficulty of a keyword. It doesn't necessarily reflect the ROI of a click. So it's got to be your phone, Anthony. Nobody else is complaining. So, so in my opinion, this just isn't the greatest method. But it's very old school, and it does give you it can at least give you a starting point. Maybe you use this as your floor or something like that. But overall, I don't recommend it, but it's popular. A lot of people use it, and I wanted to throw it out there. So that one is number 5, the pointless algorithm. Number 6 is the markup. What you're going to do here is have a fulfillment partner, a white label or managed SEO service or whatever service you're offering, where they do the work and they charge you a small amount, and then you just mark up that amount and you just kind of work as the middleman. So this is probably my other favorite method because it lets me spend time on what matters, which is sales, customer service, and growth and scaling. So for an example on this one, you can use this Handsome Devils white label service. And the way that would work is this. Yeah, this service has 3 different packages. One, it shows you what it does. It's $2.99 a month. One is $3.49 a month, and one is $3.99 a month. So what you would do is present these options to a client with your own name on it. You don't mention that someone else is doing it, fulfilling it for you, and then you just mark it up. So this package you could charge $1,000 to $1,200 a month. This one you could charge $1,250 to $1,750 a month. This one you could charge $1,500 to $2,000 a month for, and you could charge whatever you like as long as you make a comfortable amount of profit and cover your costs and make it worth your time to deal with the client and things like that. But my point is that you're just going to take the price and mark it up and sell it to the client that way. So there are a lot of good packages like this out there. Another one is this one, which let's go ahead and look at this one on Legiit. One moment. Voice is getting a little hoarse. Out of practice. Just 1 second, guys, while I find this. There it is. All right. So this is the service. And the reason that I'm showing it this way is that it was just too big to fit in a slide. And it kind of, again, it's kind of the same concept. It lays out what exactly it is that he does, what you can expect. And then there are 3 packages. This one you could charge, 2, 4, 6, probably $750 to $1,000 a month. 369. This one you could charge maybe $1,500 a month for. This one you could charge $2,000 to $3,000 for if you wanted. And just mark it up and sell it as it is, and customer service, sales, and that sort of thing. So this is just another example of that. And this is not limited to SEO, by the way. Look at that handsome fella. You can do it with Facebook ads. So let me find this one. Or, you can do it with any service. You can just find someone on Legiit to do it for you. And where is it? And then just mark the price up so you don't have to spend your time on fulfillment. You can just spend it on growth, scaling, sales, those sorts of things. So here we go. And this is another one. This is a Facebook ads / lead gen service. It's $500 a month plus ad spend. So you would just charge them $1,500 a month plus ad spend and let him do the work for you. So it's a powerful service. It's a good way to go about it. This is probably my favorite method for client pricing, is because the work is done for you. The pricing is done for you. You just multiply it and you pass it on to the client. So that's number 7. That's the markup. So that's kind of the last major method. There's some other thoughts. You can offer different packages. There's some upside to that. The upside is that people like choice, and there's some psychological things that show that if you have more options, people will be more likely to choose a higher option if you have a lower option. Doesn't make sense, but it's true. But the downside is, are you really going to do less work for the lower package? Like for me, I always found that I ended up doing a lot anyway, just to get results for people. And it didn't work out, because then, they were getting the premium version for the standard price. So I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. No, shut up. Alexa, stop. I'm not a big fan of it. I like to be the one in control and explain to them the value of the service. And this is what investment they need to make to get that value. And I don't want it to be like a menu where they're just picking this and picking that, so upsides and downsides to that. Some other important things one way to increase the average value of a client and get more pricing in is to find what I call bolt-on services. So you're already doing SEO. Maybe you throw in some social media management where you charge them to make X amount of posts to their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and whatever. Some other things to consider are, make sure you've accounted for all of your costs, the outsourcing, labor, tools, your own salary, your merchant fees. And no, I didn't say Alexis stop. I said Alexa stop, because it started talking to me. So no, I wasn't telling you to stop. But make sure you've accounted all costs. There's a lot of like a little invisible fees that come with running a business, particularly the merchant fees. You want to make sure you're on top of that, or they will eat up your entire profit. So account for all of that in your pricing and make sure that you're giving yourself enough to live off of and to run a good business. Be flexible, because just because you choose the eyeball method or the markup method or whatever, it doesn't mean that you're stuck with that. It doesn't mean you have to do that for everyone. Do what's right for the particular situation and client and customer and whatever. You don't have to. Two things can be true at once. You know what I mean? So the next one is get paid before you work. So this is a big deal. Some clients will try to be like, I'll pay you at net 30. I'm like, no, I have upfront cost. I have staff. I have outsourcers. I have links. I have content. I have things that I need to pay. And once I do this work, I can't take it back. So you need to pay me upfront in order to do it. If you do it that way, you never, ever, ever have to worry about collections. So get paid upfront. Which leads us into the next one. Set up auto pay when possible. You want it to get to where they don't even notice it, like not in a shady way, but just to where they don't have to think about writing that check every month. It just auto drafts through, I guess, the PayPal or Stripe or whatever billing method you use. But try to set them up on auto pay so you get paid regularly and they don't have to think about it every single month. So, and some people will just be like, they have the money and they aren't being shady. They just aren't good at being efficient on time with things like that. So set up auto pay whenever you can. And the last one is more about sales, but don't present the price until you have the prospect sold on the value. So if they start with how much this going to cost, you don't tell them that. You go into the value, you go into what you're going to do, how it's going to benefit them. And you get them to the point where they don't give a shit what price you say. They're going to say yes. So you want the price to be the reveal at the end. after you've got them all primed and ready to work with you. So don't present it up front. Don't present it until you truly have them ready to say yes, to where they're like, just shut the fuck up and give me the buy link, So don't present it until that. And to that end, don't put the pricing on your website or whatever, because then it's going to lead to the same kind of thing, because then they're just thinking about the price and not the value. So that's more of a sales thing, but I thought it was kind of important and related. So some other pricing models that I didn't really go into is pay per lead. I just don't really do that model that enough to really speak on it. And it's pretty self-explanatory, right? You just set up some tracking every time someone makes a call to their business through your number, or someone fills out a form on the site that you drove them to, you just charge them X amount per lead. And at the end of the month, you send them an invoice for that many. Rank and Rent is where you rank a website and you either put their branding on it or you use a plugin to lightbox it or whatever. That's where you just rent the site to them, just like you would rent an apartment or something like that. And then there's revenue share / partnership. Be real careful about this. A lot of people are going to promise you the moon and try to get you into a revenue share / partnership. And what they really want is they want what you do, but they don't want to pay you. So you get into a situation where you're working for free. And if you have the headache of actually helping run the business, as opposed to just doing the SEO, the ads, whatever. That said, this can be extremely lucrative too, if you can really drive up the ROI or the revenue for a business. So there are times you want to consider this. Most people that are going to pitch this are just broke and don't want to pay you, but want what you do. So be wary of that. So I think I could go on and on about this all day. I love this stuff. But like I said in the beginning, there's just too much to cover in one session. So if you want to learn more, you can head over to superstarseo.expert, get a free week of Superstar SEO Academy, which is a complete SEO and digital marketing training course that's been out for almost 4 years for different coaches. And it's just, I'm so super proud of it. I don't want to turn this into a sales pitch, but it's worth checking out. So check that out there. And that's just going to bring us to any questions that you have. So I am going to grab some water and then we'll get into whatever questions have come in so far and what other questions you may have. All right. So MD says, I want to learn SEO work. I want to learn frill SEO work. Can anyone help me? Check out the link I just dropped in the chat or in the comments, depending on where you're watching. Yamil says, method number 2 is a big no-no for me. That must be the hourly. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that either. I got out of hourly type jobs because I don't want to do that, and I don't want to do it again. Anthony, number 3 is why it pays to niche down. That must be the blockhead. Yeah, exactly, because now you know what it takes to rank a particular type of term. So if you get a similar type of business in a similar type of city, you know 90% of what you need to do. So it makes it easy to price what you do. Number 4 is pretty much like, we don't use the G word, but it's pretty much like doing a service on Legiit. Yeah, that's like a one-off. It's the same concept. Alexis says, so the idea is to charge up front and use the money to hire legit freelancers. Oh, you must be talking about the what did I call it? The markup. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you just you just have the freelancer do the work for you. I have numerous clients that do that. So that's been a good business for me. Don't forget taxes. Yeah, that's another thing you have to consider is how much you're going to end up paying in taxes, because government going to get theirs. So make sure you factor all of that stuff in when you're figuring out how much you need to make and how much you need to charge. Devin says, I do revenue share for your SEO, but yes, you need really high quality prospects. Yeah, I don't want to seem like I was saying don't do that at all, but you have to have someone with, in my opinion, that's a really good business, that they've got revenue coming in, that they know how to close business. They just need someone to help get them some traffic, basically. So that's kind of when you would do that, but you got to be very, very careful, because you'll end up working for free and end up doing things you don't want to do. So Emil says, never ever do work before getting paid. I did that once and got burned. Yeah. I sometimes people ask me, how do you go about it when a client's not paying? I was like, I don't care. Like, if I don't work until I get paid, I never have any loss. I mean, you still have the loss of revenue, but you at least haven't lost anything in the sense of you've done work that you haven't gotten paid for. So yeah, always get paid up front. So if somebody's going to give you guff about that, then they're probably not someone you want to work with. Anthony says, I have a question. What's your favorite pizza and which place do you order from? I don't really get pizza all that much, but despite the joke, but I'm not very original. Probably a good pepperoni is my favorite, and from where it just depends. So Steven said, so from what you said, Chris, you don't care about how many searches the keyword phrases get, and you don't care about how competitive the keyword phrases are. I didn't say that at all. No, you just need to figure out how difficult one, or well, it depends on which method you use, but no, you need to figure out how difficult it is going to be for you to rank somebody if you're doing SEO, how much it's going to cost you, and then just mark up the price from there. So if you obviously it's not going to cost you as much to rank for Kennebunksport hernia surgeon as it is for New York lawyer. So you would base it on how much that difficulty of a keyword is going to cost you, and then just mark it up to the client. So I'm sorry if that wasn't clear, but yes, you figure out the difficulty. And when I say you don't look at the searches necessarily, you need to just be able, as a seasoned professional SEO, you need to be able to figure out how difficult or not difficult a term is going to be, and then base it on that. Just random numbers from tools aren't a good barometer, in my opinion. You need to have that skill. You need to have that club in your bag to be able to figure out how difficult or not difficult something is going to be, and then just charge based on that. So hopefully that made sense. Yamil says, I do leads, monthly fee, and revenue share in one niche. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, just because like I said at the beginning, just because it's not my favorite model doesn't mean it doesn't work. And that's why I did mention it at least, but I don't do much lead gen or revenue share other than with a couple of non-agency related businesses. But there's a lot that you can do with it, but there's a lot of downside to it too, Devin says, 100%. I handpick people who are proven closers, and they paid $3 a month for $3K a month for 3 months to rank top 3. Then after ranking, I get 10 to 30% of real estate closings. Yeah, see, that's a good model if you can find people that are a good fit for it, So yeah, absolutely. And because that becomes semi-passive that way too. I mean, there's no such thing as truly passive, but it becomes as close to passive as you're going to get. So yeah, that's definitely one way to go about it. I've always used the number of searches and then the CPC to determine prices for clients. Yeah, I have a feeling I know where you got that from, and it doesn't mean it's wrong. I just don't think CPC really is a good barometer for how difficult or not difficult a keyword is for SEO. So I've seen some pretty expensive CPCs that were easy to rank and vice versa. So I don't know. If it's working for you, keep at it. But for me, I never cared for that method. What invoicing tools do you use usually? I actually like to I use a tool called SPP, which will let you create links for either Stripe or PayPal. And then you just send them that link to pay for whatever amount you agree to. But you can also use things like QuickBooks or just Stripe directly, or bank transfer is probably the safest, or wire transfer, because, with something like PayPal or Stripe, you can it's much easier to do a chargeback and you almost never win. So I don't know, use something like QuickBooks or something like that. Trans Canada says, correct me if I'm wrong, but I personally am blown away by businesses who own the top pages and how bad their SEO is, outright bad. So I get what you're saying, but if it's working, their SEO isn't bad. And I get what you're saying. Like, there's conventional wisdom, and when something doesn't fit that conventional wisdom, but it still works, it's frustrating because, it's kind of disproving what we know. But if they're ranking, their SEO isn't bad. And with Audit, my on-page tool, what we decided early on with that was that we were not going to correct for conventional wisdom in the output, and that's caused some refunds and caused some heat with people. But what we're going to get present with that is what the data from the SERP tells us, and then it's up to you as the expert to determine how you implement that data. So it's just information, and it's not opinion baked into it like some other tools do. So how do we go about knowing which one of your 3 services to buy if you let the handle the SEO for us? When in doubt, go with the most expensive one, but you can always message us and we'll analyze that for you as well. I get this question a lot, so I'm going to have to give people some guidelines, but truthfully, if you can afford the $3.99 package, go with that. If not, then don't. But ultimately, that one gives us the most freedom to get the most results for you. But if you have a client or a potential client that you're not sure of, let us know, and we'll try to come up with an answer for you. But I need to make something about that because I get that question a lot. Devin says, I found a good rank difficulty barometer is searching the keyword in quotes. Essentially, that tells you how many people are actually trying to rank. Yeah, I mean, that's like kind of like all in title, or what's the other one? All in URL. That's a good difficulty. I use that for affiliate sites, not so much for local business sites. Ben Immortal says, what is the fastest way to rank a new website with 0 DA? Is it niche keywords research or something else? That's a very, very big question, and it's kind of looking at it the wrong way. You just got to go through your SEO process and not worry about fast, but worry about right. So make the right content for the right keywords, optimized in the right way, and do the links that are necessary to get you the rest of the way. Otherwise, that question is a bit too broad and too vague to answer any better than that. So I hope that helped. What's the best way to rank a GMB without it being verified and owned? Without it being, I'm not sure what you mean. Like, why would you rank somebody's GMB that they don't own? Maybe I'm taking that the wrong way. I'm not sure what you mean. Lazy local SEO. What's up, MK? Says, hey, Chris, how do you deal with unresponsive SEO clients? Unresponsive SEO clients are a common problem that most agencies have to deal with at some point, and I'm quite sure you've dealt with them. Personally, I don't care. Like, I know what I need to do, and the less communication I get from them, the better. So if it's where you need something and you can't do it until they give it to you, you just keep charging them and periodically reminding them that you can't get them results until they do it. Like, I don't deal with that. Like, if somebody's unresponsive and they're still paying, that's fine. If they're not paying, oh well, I move on to the next one. If I can't get them results, I just remind them often enough that I'm covered and can show it to them later when they complain, but not so often that I'm being a nuisance. So that's kind of how I handle it. Ben Immortal says, oh, and God bless, your simple explanations made me love SEO. Well, thank you, Ben. That means a lot to me. I try to help as best as I can. SEOs tend to attract engineering type people who are really smart, but like aren't necessarily good at simplification. So I try to talk in a way that other people that everyone can get involved, if that makes sense. Postcard verified. What's the best way to rank a GMB without it being postcard verified? I mean, you still need to get it verified. Like, I don't know. I don't try to do things like that. I work with a business that they either have one already or I can just get them one. So I don't know beyond that. Excuse me one second. When talking with your potential clients, do you ever tell them that you will call them back with a price after you've done some research? Or do you always tell them on the call what it'll cost? It depends on where you are in your sales cycle. But if I'm not prepared to give them a price, then yeah, I will set up a time after I've done my research and know what to tell them. So, or after I've had time to properly warm them up. So yeah, you don't have to tell them right away. In fact, that's more likely to not work out than likely it is, because you're rushing it. So got to remember that it's all about the sales process and getting to know them and their problems and how you can solve them for them. Just hammering them with the price right away is like going to a cafe, a cafeteria. So you pick up the chicken, the rice, and the mashed potatoes, and the price is right there on each of them. You don't want to be that. You want to show them that you are the cure for what ails them, Trans Canada says, is schema markup a noticeable ranking factor or more of Google trust factor? It's important to get it right. Do the appropriate schema in the appropriate places and get it right as often as you can. Can you rank without it? Probably. Why would you want to? I don't know. So do it because it works. Basically, like whether you want to call it a trust factor or a ranking factor, it's not necessarily, doesn't really matter, right? Like it's something that Google definitely wants. So just do it. And it's not that hard to do. You know, there's tools that can do most of it for you. Devin says, sorry if I missed it. What's your ideal method for SEO client acquisition? Organic, Google fit. It just depends on the individual. You can, there's so, we did a whole live stream a few weeks ago on this, but it just depends on you, your natural abilities, your skill set, your preferences, and your situation. So a lot of folks may still have a day job, so they can't be banging out phone calls every day. So in that case, cold email or organic outreach on social media is a way. I like to use what I call the celebrity method, which is literally what you're watching right now, where I just create a lot of content and advertise it, and it draws people to me. That's what's always worked best for me. It's not for everyone because some people don't want to create content or they don't want to be the visible face of the business. So you can do cold calling, cold emailing, networking, and assuming the world ever gets to where you can do that again. It just depends on what you like to do. There's LinkedIn and so on. So it depends on your type, the type of business you're in, the niche that you're in, your skill set, and your situation. I know it depends. It's kind of like the cheesy answer to everything in SEO, but it really is. Like I could give a definitive answer one way or the other, but everybody's got different things that work for them, you know? When pitching clients, is it best to use GMB or write a blog post with a topic of them in mind? Assuming that is it best to use GMB or write a blog post with a topic of them in mind? Assuming I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're asking there. Pitching clients, is it best to use GMB, write a blog post with a topic of them in mind? Yeah, I'm not sure what you're asking there. If it sounds like you're asking what kind of content to make or what to do for them. Can you just clarify that a little bit for me? And I'll try to answer it as best as I can. I'm going to grab a little bit more to drink. We got about 10 minutes left, so keep them coming. I can always recap if you'd like me to do that as well. Let me go ahead and get us on Instagram because why not? Everybody say hello to Instagram. I'm doing a live stream SEO client pricing session here on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and Twitch. So come join us next time. Alrighty. If you had to pick only one method to rank a site, PBN, Web 2.0, or Outreach. Had to pick just one of those, I'd probably say PBN because they're the most flexible and take the least time. Although I would never handcuff myself by just doing one, but as a thought exercise, I would say PBN. What's up, Sam? Sam says, how would you recommend dealing with new leads asking for reviews of your work when you're just getting going and don't have many / at all? Well, as you're starting, you should definitely work on ranking your own site and your own clients and things like that, or your own site and your own sites. But just be honest, you know, tell them what your experience is. Tell them that you'll use these tactics to get this result, that you are just moving into this space and you are confident you can get them these results because of the people that you know and trust and have worked with. And just, you know, be on, you don't want to lie. If you don't think you can do it, if you're presenting to them and you think you can get them results, then just explain it to them how you're going to get them the results. If you don't think you can get them the results, you shouldn't be pitching to them in the first place. So if they ask that, just be straight up with them. Tell them that you're just transitioning into this role, but you've got experience and you've got training and you've got the know-how, you may end up not being able to charge as much in the beginning because of that. And that's okay, but there's going to get to be a time when once you are well established, then they can go look for you, or you can just tell them no, if they want that too. But that's what I do, is just be perfectly honest with who you are, how you intend to get them results, and where you are in your journey. There's no point in lying. Alexis says, hello, Legiit Instagram. Devin says, if you get a homepage PBN link and it falls off the PBN homepage to an inner page, does the power/juice also fade? Yes, it does. Lazy Local SEO says, great tips. Appreciate the time and effort you put in here. Keep it legit. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you as well. I think you're a sir. I know you're MK Stone. I always assumed in your profile pic is, what? Let's just move on. 231 Enterprises. There's your free plug. Says, hey, Chris, great channel. Well, thank you. I've been hearing a lot about building brand entities. What's your view on that? It's big. I like to, even though I don't necessarily label it that way, it's a big part of my SEO process, is creating a brand around your website. So those are trust signals. Those are more things people can find, and it reduces the amount of gray hat SEO type stuff you have to do. So I really like those a lot. A brand entity basically is where you've created your business as a brand with strong properties that interlink to it and help establish it as in the meta-analysis that it is a business. That's probably the most simplified way. How about asking a provider on Legiit for some verifiable results? You can ask them that. That's their prerogative whether they want to do it or not, but there's nothing wrong with messaging them and talking to them and asking for results ahead of time. When I get that kind of question, I tell them that you are, just to be prepared for the counter to that, is that when somebody buys a 15 or 30 or whatever dollar service from me, they're paying for me to do me and my team to do that task and not to take over their whole campaign. So I tell them specifically what I'm going to do, and they can look at my reviews and they can look up my history and get it from that. But some people may be perfectly happy showing you results. Freddie Edmonds is great about that. So I think it's a perfectly reasonable thing to ask. I think there are many different answers you can expect. And just because somebody doesn't want to give out that kind of thing doesn't mean that and this is not related to Legiit in general, but just in general, just because they don't want to give that out doesn't mean that they don't know what they're doing. So I hope that makes sense. Ben Immortal says, if a business does not have a GMB, do you give it to them for free? Write a blog about their business for free to get them to acquire your SEO services. If they don't have a GMB, do you give it to them for free? Are you saying, do you help them register it for free, or do you write them a blog on how to go about it as kind of a foot in the door? Is that what you're asking? If so, if they don't have a GMB, if they don't have one, I'm still not 100% clear what you're asking, but I would point it out to them and tell them I can do it for them, or give them a video on how to do it themselves and use that as leverage to get the foot in the door. And I suppose you could write a blog post as well as a foot in the door / superstar offer. So I hope that's what you're asking. How do you get a GMB profile to appear on the right side of Google desktop search? A lot of times just establishing a brand entity like we talked about will do that. It's not 100% the case, but that's what's worked for me. Let me show you an example. Google does that. When I search, no, come on. When I search superstar SEO, you're talking about something like this, right? It's just a well-optimized Google entity / Google business. And if you just do that and have enough properties and so on, it'll show up. Funny thing is, this is not inaccurate. This is not where I am anymore. This is an older office. It's not even my logo anymore. I don't know where it's pulling that from, but that's kind of what you have to do, is just get a lot of good properties, a lot of good reviews and set up your Google business in a good way. So look at that. I have 9 out of the 10 are actually mine, and there's actually a review, a brutally honest review. Anyhow, yeah, that's how you go about that. Ben Immortal says, you're right. I have a civil engineering background. SEO attracts engineers. Yeah, my background is in information technology / computer programming. So it's the same kind of thing. Ben says, yes. So Chris, you know how to do email campaign? I do. I do 90% of the email marketing for both of my businesses. So Ben says, thank you. Thank you, Ben. Mark says, my account on GMB got flagged and got re-verified. We're legit for 35 years. Problem is they moved all our reviews to another one, our sites, which is a different business, getting re-verified. Simple, we have filled out so many GMB help forms. Still the reviews are on the wrong site. Can you please help? I really wish I could. Mark, message me on Facebook. I may know someone that may know how to help, but I'm not promising anything. But it's such a mess. Like, there's a support number, but they're so bad at these things. And I hear things like this a lot. So I can't promise you anything, but I know one person who may know how to go about getting help with something like that. But I don't know. They just don't have good systems in place to fix their own screw ups. So I'm sorry that happened to you. I know it's frustrating to put in all that time and just have something dumb happen to it like that, you know? So I'm sorry, but I don't have a better answer than that. But shoot me a message on Facebook and I'll do my best. Oops. Ryan says, did you say you did SEO for property websites? No, we were talking about different types of properties. But I mean, a niche is a niche. So, I mean, if you have a certain thing, I can always do it. Sam says, do you have resources, info on best practices for dealing with businesses with multiple locations? Or have one location that serves multiple areas? Seeing a lot of different recommendations on this. 1 second. My voice is out of shape. Do I have best practice? With businesses with multiple locations? So businesses with multiple locations, you're just going to want to treat each one as kind of its own thing. It'll have its own Google business page, its own page on your website, and so on. One that serves multiple areas, that's a bit tougher. You can do, what do you call it? A service area, but I don't know. If you don't have physical locations, it gets a bit harder, but it's a big topic. I'm not 100% sure exactly what you're asking, but best practice is if you have multiple locations and like actual physical locations, each one should have its own Google business, and it's just Sam's Business North, Sam Business South, Sam Business Westlake, whatever. So that's kind of the way you go about that. I would need a more specific example to help more than that. What rich snippet / schema, if you had to pick one, is best? Either to take over SERP rank or take over SERP display. You just use whichever one is appropriate for your site and situation. All right, we're going to have to wrap it up soon because I'm running out of oxygen. Ryan says, misunderstood. Oh, no worries. Mark says, thank you so much, Chris. And this will be the last question. Devin says, how can I get GMB verified postcards if I live outside the country? I moved from San Diego to Puerto Vallarta. I mean, you can have the business location address and the actual shipping address of the postcard be different. So if you have a business that's in California, but you're currently getting your mail in Puerto Vallarta, you can just put in the Puerto Vallarta address as where to send the postcard and the actual address of the business as the one listed on the GMB. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for today. I will upload, wherever you're watching this, you'll be able to catch the replay, but I'll also have it on my website at superstarseo.com/blog. And along with all the links and resources and the saved presentation and the whole bit. So I'm sorry we missed a couple weeks of this. We're going to get back on track now. I think this is probably going to wrap up the agency series, unless anybody has any suggestions on further topics, but I think that's about all I can possibly talk about. If I haven't thought of something, I will let you know, or I'll come up with it and we'll do it next time. Alexis says, nice Spanish, Chris. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I actually don't know any, but I knew enough people to know how to kind of speak the accent a little bit. Devin says, thanks for letting me pick your brain. Anytime. But we'll get back on our regular Wednesday schedule of this as soon as possible, hopefully next week. You'll be able to catch all of this again and wherever you're watching it now. So I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope everybody's taking care of everything. And I hope that you're all crushing it. And most importantly, I want you to figure out what you want out of life and go out and get it, because you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the world. I'll see you again soon. Have a great day. Peace.